GPT wrappers are easy. Building, yes. Selling, not so much. I'll show you why. All right. So here you can see the full funnel of our Metaphonic speech generator tool or our wedding speech generator tool. All right. So here you can see the full funnel of our wedding speech generator tool. And you can see that there's 11 steps involved. And these are just the most important ones. There are more. Everything that goes from ranking for a certain keyword. Obviously, we use a lot of organic search to get sales for the product. Then people seeing it in the search results. Obviously, the biggest here is to rank in the top 3, maybe get a featured snippet, or if we start seeing generative answers rolled out appearing as part of the answer as a reference. Then we have the blog post view, which boils down to having a clickable title, a good meta description, and obviously also ranking in the top 3, because the top 3 just gets the most clicks, with first obviously getting by far the most. And then we have a tool page visit. So as soon as people come on a blog post, that is something informative, but the tool is where the actual sale happens. So that's where people use a chatbot to generate a speech. And what our levers are here to improve, like how many people we get from the blog post onto the tool. We can have more CTAs. So throughout the long form, we have certain CTAs that look like images, also smaller ones over here, for example. And we can just add more of these, right? That's one option. We can add a floating bar here that just is always there so that people always see it. Because right now, the click-through rate from the blog post to the tool isn't ideal, especially for the best man speech cluster, for example. So that's definitely something we need to figure out. And obviously also better content. So if we have CTAs throughout the blog post, the further down people scroll, the more often they'll see the CTA and the more likely they are to click, right? Or yeah, we can also add something like highlighting the CTA better or in a different way. That would be another way to do it. All right, then on the tool, we collect the email. We could, for example, here ask for the date first. So we collect the email and the date, just so that there's a more low commitment answer first rather than asking for the email. We can guide the users better. So the tool itself is embedded into the website. As you can see here, there is some guidance around this, and it is already kind of pretty central, I would say. But there might be ways for us to guide the user even more to the tool. That is especially important on mobile because there it's not as good. So that's something we could look at. We can, for example, on mobile as well, the UX isn't that great just because it's an iframe and it keeps scrolling around a bit. So I'm thinking about just sending people to a separate page and just bringing back the CTA, which we had before, where you then go on a separate page that is optimized, full page with just the tool. But yeah, that's something we can explore as well. Then from the email, people save the wedding date. We might be able to skip this step. We wanted to use it to segment users based off of that, but it hasn't really done much. So right now it's just an extra step that we might be able to remove. We then go on to collecting messages from the user so that we would be able to improve that by maybe showing a different first message, having a shorter message, less things to read, less things to go through for the user to send the messages. And then we have 8 to 10 questions that we ask. Then you see the paywall, and that means we could ask less questions, obviously, right? That would be a trade-off between the context size to write a good speech and also the effort to kind of get through the speech. And then one thing people always complain about is that we don't actually show the speech before you pay, which is tough because you can just copy it, right? So there's ways where we can show the outline of the speech first. Maybe we can show a teaser of the speech, just the first 3 to 5 lines. I have thought about this quite a lot. I think it would be good, but I also think that it's quite hard to get right because GPT isn't always 100% consistent. So it's a smart way of finding the kind of trigger points. It's been a bit of a challenge, but that's definitely something we can and should try along the way. Then we have the paywall confirmation, which basically there's a button where it's like, okay, it's going to cost you XYZ dollars. And you need to confirm that you want to see the checkout, basically. Right now, we're showing 2 products or 2 ways of delivering the product. One is in purely AI-generated speech. The other is basically a human speech at a higher price point. And the paywall design is okay, but it's kind of questionable. So we can definitely do something there where we only show one of the buttons, or we just make one of them much more obvious and make the other kind of look like a secondary CTA. And it looks like a secondary CTA, but they're both buttons, right? The other one could look like a link or something. Just anything to make it easier to steer the user towards the right button that we want them to press. And again, showing a teaser might also make it more likely that people actually are willing to pay because they've seen the speech or seen a sample of it. Then for checkout, we have the checkout data edit, which is basically the user filling out their data. We could try to ask for this data. This heavily depends on the payment provider we use. So Lemon Squeezy asks you a lot of shit because they need to know where you live to calculate the taxes and everything. Although we don't actually charge the user the taxes, like we pay them, but still they have to put all that data. I think in Stripe, it would probably be a lot less, but obviously at the risk of not collecting all the necessary information to pay the right taxes. But that's something that could be explored and what's needed and necessary. Then a more user-friendly provider, like I said, there are some issues with the discount, for example, and Lemon Squeezy showing correctly at the top. I know they're working on this, but yeah, it's definitely something that is quite annoying and not very user-friendly. And also, they don't have as many payment options, I think, Stripe does. And like something like a link, which is basically via your email, it automatically populates the checkout with your latest checkout data and things like that. So a lot of things that people have to do manually. And in a B2C context, people just generally don't want to do any of this. They are very, very lazy. So anything we can cut away would help. And then obviously, yeah, just offering more checkout options as well, like here from checkout to order, and making sure that the provider runs stable. Sometimes there's some issues with the checkout. Yeah, so anything that we can improve there will obviously improve the order, because if people mess that up, they probably won't return. Or if the system messes up, they probably won't return. All right, we have some more kind of retargeting things via the email and some discounts we're sending, etc. That is excluded here for the sake of this exercise. But now basically I would have to do for every article that is kind of like a flagship article for this cluster, just so that I can go in and I can the current value. So what is the conversion from each step to the next? And then I can find out where it can potentially be the most, right? And that will help us prioritize and do the right things first until we think we don't have any more leeway here to improve any of the conversion. But yeah, there's always something you can do, but a lot of times you're not doing swings, right? So a lot of these are also not necessarily like going for a big swing, doing an optimization that gives you 1% to 2% over, let's say, 20 to 30%. And that's exactly what we need to find out. And that's why I kind of drew it out, so that we can go in and we can basically find the big swings and execute them first. And then always decide if the work to gain 1% to 2% is worth it based off of what we're seeing already. And if we should look for product improvements, or if we should just try to pour more people into the top of the funnel, even if the funnel is kind of leaky here and there, but that will in the end net us more return rather than a lot of time on minor optimizations, right? So yeah, I'll do that in the next step, drawing out all the current conversion rates. Also, they will be different per article, right? I have written that down already. So we're ranging anything from 0.2% to 0.8 for different long form articles to order. I think 0.8 is kind of where we want all of them to be. And I think that might be actually, from a top level view, that might actually be one of the first things to do. So that would be both here from the blog to the tool page. Right now, we're ranging from 7 to 13% of people that go from the blog to the tool. That's definitely something we could improve to, let's say, 30%. I think that is not unreasonable to assume. And then obviously down here to order. So main importance to capture the email, because then we can retarget and everything else will come after. And I think also the paywall and highlighting, making it more straightforward in general, will help. And yeah, I'll make a breakdown of this in a next video. And feel free to subscribe to not miss it. All right, that's it.